Hello everyone, this is Venus Brown. In this week's Digging Deeper episode, we're going to be talking about muscle relaxer woes. Muscle relaxers I've been taking for my specific nerve problems. Now, this blog post I actually wrote a couple months ago, so it is a little old. The stuff that is going on in the blog post is actually about things that were going on a couple months ago. Sorry for the confusion. I just write most of my blog posts early and then I don't post on them until later. Now, after the blog post that I did last week about my pinched nerves, I figured I'd do a second post about the medications I was taking and something else that I found. The meds I was taking were muscle relaxers and extra strength Tylenol, but those muscle relaxers were quite old and really didn't seem to be doing anything. I wanted to know more. What was I putting into my body? Was it too old to be effective? What was it actually supposed to do at a root level? So I went into a bit of a deeper dive for myself, digging into it a little bit more. After severe problems with my neck, back, and shoulders this month, I found some interesting things about the meds that I was taking. Plus, a connection that reminded me of a very heated discussion that went on in one of my Facebook groups that I frequent. It was related loosely to spastic muscles. Muscle relaxers obviously work for problems with muscle spasms. The reality that it's dealing with spastic muscles, that maybe that pain is coming from those spastic muscles, I hadn't made that connection. But that was something that I learned as I was digging deeper into these issues. In the last couple weeks, the pain and the numbness in my left shoulder, neck, and arm were causing severe muscle spasms, to the point that my arm was feeling very tight, very tense, weak, and painful. I even kept rubbing it and pounding on it, which probably wasn't all that helpful. I started taking my old muscle relaxers, that extra strength Tylenol, and after a few days, I called the VA for guidance. Eventually, I got an appointment, had labs and x-rays done, was told to get on physical therapy. Those old meds, I got a new bottle with an increased dose of methocarbamol. After the labs came back, I received a notice about mild degeneration and straightening of my cervical spine, reduced space in my shoulder and wrist. Oh yeah, and a vitamin D deficiency, because even though I live in Florida and enjoy my dairy, apparently I haven't been getting out enough and have cut too much of my dairy in an attempt to reduce fat and calories. Anyway, I had looked into that methocarbamol since it was really old and didn't seem to be helping all that much. According to an article in the Recovery Village, it is a central nervous system depressant, often used to treat muscle spasms. And occasionally, some have used it to reduce withdrawal symptoms in recovery. I did recognize the term Roboxin from my days as a rehabilitation counselor. I'm telling you, you learn something new every day. Another thing I found out on my quick search for information on these challenges I've been having, as written in Science Direct, muscle relaxers are often useful for people with conditions such as muscular dystrophy and cerebral palsy. It never occurred to me these conditions can cause spastic muscles, obviously, which I only took notice of while reading. That word spastic got my attention because of a recent post in one of my Facebook groups. I will just say that the discussion was heavily focused on reasons a person might use the word spaz, which, yes, is a shortened expletive of spastic. And yes, that word can be quite problematic. It may sometimes be used in an innocent, light-hearted manner, but for the most part, it's been used to disparage certain people or behaviors. The reason it was even in the discussion was because a celebrity had recently apologized for using the word, not knowing its roots. She stopped using the word and removed it from the offending material. Honestly, this is exactly what most people want when you find that you've inadvertently been using an offensive word. Learn from the people you have offended. Apologize and do better. That's exactly what she did. It's so simple. Learn better, do better. Yet people in this discussion, even after an explanation of the roots of disparaging people with spastic conditions, making fun of anyone else with similar characteristics or behavior, which still continues on even today, some continued to say that they should continue to use this word because it's used innocently in some areas. Then they'd go on to explain by using it to describe how they'd use it when they're being worried or hyper, chaotic, or erratic. Like, seriously, listen to the things you're describing and stop making excuses to continue causing willfully ignorant harm. Because, yes, it's initially inadvertent and not intended to harm other people. You're doing it lighthearted and funny or whatever, and you think that it's okay. But once you learn from somebody else that it is not okay, then it is offensive, that it is harmful, that you hurt other people by using that kind of terminology, learn from that and change your behavior, because you don't need to continue doing it once you know that it is causing harm. That's the real issue. We know that everybody accidentally uses harmful terms every once in a while because they don't know any better. But once you do know better, do better. I could go on about the issues with people being offended by others being offended, and maybe I will on another post some other time. But for now, I'm just going to leave that lay here. Maybe you can think about it. Maybe you won't. We could get on to the next part of this post. Now, my initial concerns for looking into this medication in the first place were that it was several years old. And according to what I found, it may have a 20% reduction in effectiveness. No, it's not a steroid, and it's not all that addictive, but it can have that reduction in effectiveness. Now, I went looking for that original 20% statement, and it came from a post in Quora, which was supposedly from a medical professional. Yet, how much stock can I really take in a public post on Quora? My understanding is that Quora is not like Wikipedia. They don't have people coming in to double check the information that people are publicly posting on it, but I could be wrong about that. There is no way for me to go back and tell if this medical professional is actually a medical professional, and even if they are a medical professional, if their medical field is in an area related to this medication. So I really don't know how much stock I could take in that. I did, however, find a Harvard study that said of 100 tested drugs, over 90% were fine to use even after 15 years. Still, those findings don't mean it's free of problems. The Recovery Village states that it can have a sedative effect, may cause drowsiness. I haven't had any of those issues. It doesn't mean that others haven't. Another thing the article and several other sites mentioned as well is that research of methocarbamol is limited, even though patients have used it for withdrawal from opioids, and it's been used for spasms since the 1950s. Deborah Quinn also explains that severe symptoms of things like low blood pressure, slowed heart rate, and possible seizures can occur. In fact, I am actually supposed to avoid certain other types of meds that could interact negatively with this medication and increase my chance of seizures, which is a concern because of my previous head injury. Luckily, as I said in my previous post, my doctors have all been pretty good about making sure that the medications I'm on are not very addictive, they're not increasing my chance of seizures, and that they are interacting well with what is going on in my current situation. That cannot be said for everybody. Sometimes, I don't know if they're not paying attention or if they're willfully abusing their positions. We know that there have been doctors that haven't been very good about making sure these interactions aren't occurring, isn't causing them addiction. And sometimes patients aren't being honest or aren't explaining everything. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this week's post. I will see you in our next week's episode of Digging Deeper. Bye.